Why her words still matter. Maya Angelou was more than a poet. She was a warrior of truth, resilience, and grace. In a world full of noise and burnout, her words remain an anchor, simple, powerful, and soul-stirring. If you're seeking healing, clarity, or purpose, these timeless quotes still speak loud in 2025. In a world that is constantly rushing forward, obsessed with algorithms, scrolling past beauty, and forgetting names quicker than we learn them, there are voices that refuse to be buried by time. They echo, they linger, they rise like morning light, breaking through the noise, not with volume, but with depth. And among those few rare voices, Maya Angelou stands as one of the most powerful, poetic, and enduring. She did not just write, she did not just speak, she breathed truth into words. She sculpted pain into purpose. She turned survival into scripture. Her voice was both thunder and lullaby, fierce enough to shake the silence, yet gentle enough to sit with the wounded. She knew how to speak to those parts of us we often hide, the broken places, the unsure places, the lost, tired, unseen versions of ourselves that we don't show the world but desperately want someone to notice. And she noticed. She noticed the child sitting in silence, believing their voice didn't matter. She noticed the woman carrying the weight of 1,000 expectations. She noticed the man taught to suppress his tears and call it strength. She noticed humanity in its rawest form, and she spoke to it. Maya Angelou wrote for the wounded, but never stopped calling them whole. She honored their struggle, but never let them stay stuck. She validated their pain, but gently reminded them of their power. Why do her words still matter in 2025? Because we are still healing. Because we are still searching for ourselves in a world that constantly asks us to be someone else. Because her words give us permission to be real, to be flawed, to be unprocessed, and still be worthy of love, dignity, and brilliance. We are still living in a time where people are reduced to headlines, filtered beyond recognition, and pressured to package their lives for validation. But Maya reminds us, you are enough. Without the filter, without the mask, without the applause. She reminds us to feel deeply in a culture that numbs, to rise, again and again, in a world that knocks us down, to speak, even if our voice trembles, to love ourselves when the world tells us we're not enough. Her words are not just lines in a book, they are lifelines in the chaos. They are sacred. They are instruction and invitation. They are mirrors showing us who we really aren't, who we're still becoming. In a time where many chase influence, Maya Angelou embodied impact. She didn't just go viral, she became vital. Her poetry didn't trend, it transcended. Her quotes didn't just get shared, they were remembered. Written on hearts, stitched into journals, tattooed on skin, whispered in therapy rooms, and passed down like family heirlooms. And that's why her voice still matters, because it's not just her voice. It's the voice of every woman who was told to sit down. It's the voice of every child silenced by trauma. It's the voice of every soul rising from ashes, daring to believe they're still whole. Maya Angelou didn't just leave behind quotes, she left behind courage. Courage to begin again. Courage to stand tall. Courage to speak truth. Even when our knees shake, she reminded us that language is not just for literature. It is a weapon, a bomb, a bridge. That poetry is not soft, it is survival. That dignity is not earned, it is inherited. And that we are not here to shrink, we are here to soar. So when the world feels heavy, when your spirit feels small, when you forget the sound of your own worth, return to her words. Let them be the light on days when everything feels dark. Let them be the fire that reminds you you are still alive. Let them be the gentle hand on your back, whispering, rise, because Maya Angelou still speaks. Not just through books or speeches, but through every human being who dares to live with authenticity, integrity, and fierce self-respect. Her words still matter, because we still matter. And sometimes, we just need someone to remind us. Quotes on growth and self-mastery. Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. We live in a world that's quick to shame and slow to understand. One mistake, one misstep, one moment of ignorance, and suddenly you're branded. But Maya Angelou, in her rare grace and truthfulness, offers a hand instead of a hammer. A quote that seems simple, gentle even, but is, in fact, a full philosophy of growth. Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. What she gives us here is permission. The permission to be in process. Too often, we hold ourselves hostage to our past. We replay the moments when we didn't speak up, when we stayed too long, when we believed the wrong people, when we betrayed ourselves because we didn't know our worth. And we carry those moments like weights, dragging them through our years, letting them define who we are long after they've passed. But Maya reminds us, the past was a chapter, not your whole story. We do what we can, with what we know, with who we are at the time. That's not failure. That's being human. When we didn't have the tools, how could we have built something better? When we didn't have the clarity, how could we have chosen more wisely? We often punish ourselves for not knowing what only hindsight could reveal. And yet, Maya gently turns our gaze forward. Then when you know better, do better. This isn't about perfection, it's about progression. It's about honoring the moment when light enters our mind or soul, and we decide to walk toward it. Growth is not a straight path. It is spiraled, cyclical. You will revisit lessons more than once. You will stumble, and sometimes, you will forget what you've already learned. That doesn't make you a failure, it makes you a student of life. Self-mastery isn't a finish line, it's a relationship you build with yourself over time. You begin to observe your triggers, your patterns, your fears. You start catching yourself before the old response kicks in. And when it does, you learn to forgive, to pause, to reflect, not to shame. You stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and begin asking, "What am I here to learn?" This quote becomes a mantra for those who are tired of dragging their old selves into their new season. It's a quiet revolution in how we approach our becoming. You are not who you used to be, and that's the point. We evolve. Not all at once. Not with fire and thunder. But slowly, subtly, we become softer in the right places, sharper in the places that need protection. We start choosing differently, speaking more truthfully, loving more wisely. We don't owe the world a perfect version of ourselves. We owe ourselves the courage to keep trying. The version of you from 5 years ago, maybe even 5 months ago, didn't know what you know now. So let them rest. Thank them for surviving. Let them go, and now, with this new knowledge, this new clarity, this new wisdom, do better, gently, consistently, authentically. Self-mastery isn't about control, it's about awareness. It's about learning to pause before the old impulse takes over. It's about being brave enough to choose differently, even if it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. This quote teaches us to hold space for both our past and our progress. You can honor who you were while still rising into who you're meant to be. You are not here to be flawless. You are here to be fully human, honest, evolving, brave. So keep growing, keep showing up, keep doing your best until you know better. And when that moment comes, rise. Asterisk, nothing will work unless you do. The second quote sounds deceptively simple. In a world flooded with motivational slogans and self-help fluff, this one cuts through like clean glass. Nothing will work unless you do. It's truth in its purest form. The dream won't chase you back. The door won't open unless you knock. The vision in your mind won't become real until your hands are involved. Maya didn't just believe in hope, she believed in hustle. She understood that faith without action is just fantasy. That waiting on a miracle without moving your feet is a prayer unanswered by your own resistance. You want peace. You have to pursue it. You want change. You have to create it. You want to be free. You have to unlearn the chains and choose again. Every single day, we live in a time where people want the outcome without the process, the success without the sweat, the reward without the repetition. But nothing will work, no plan, no program, no promising, lest you show up. You have to get in the game. You have to plant the seeds. You have to be willing to dig deep, even when nothing seems to be blooming. Self-mastery is not sexy. It's not loud. It's not viral. It's waking up early when you'd rather sleep. It's turning down the quick dopamine for the deeper joy. It's choosing discipline over distraction. It's saying no to the old self who whispers, "Just stay the same, it's easier here." And yet, Maya doesn't say this with bitterness, she says it with clarity. She's not scolding, she's reminding, because she knew the cost of not working. She knew what it meant to survive poverty, racism, trauma, and loss and still rise. She worked. She labored in the fields of her own soul and in the real world. She wrote. She spoke. She marched. She moved. She was not passive. She was a force. And that's the call for us too. To be active participants in our healing, in our becoming unshakable. We must remember, the goal is not to exhaust ourselves chasing validation, but to become aligned with what matters most. And that kind of work, the inner work, the soul work, is the foundation of everything else. You want love? Start by loving yourself consistently. You want clarity? Create space in your life to actually hear yourself think. You want a future? Build it with every choice you make today. Maya reminds us that motion is not the same as progress. That hustle is only holy if it's aligned. So, don't confuse busyness with effectiveness. Don't confuse burnout with worth. Work smart. Work sacred. Work like someone who knows they're not here by accident. Because nothing will work unless you do. Together, these two quotes form the compass of self-mastery. One honors your past and invites you to evolve. The other calls you to act and reminds you of your power. They are not just lessons. They are invitations. To forgive yourself. To take responsibility. To live with intention. To walk in truth. To get up again and again and choose growth. You don't have to do it all today. You just have to show up as someone who's willing. Willing to try. Willing to change. Willing to work. Willing to grow. And that willingness, that's sacred. Quiet yes, that's where mastery begins. Asterisk. Quotes on human connection and legacy. Asterisk. I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. Try to be a rainbow in someone else's cloud. In the noise of modern life where headlines scroll faster than heartbeats and conversations often disappear into blue bubbles, it's easy to forget the one thing that holds us together, how we make each other feel. Not what we post, not what we buy, not even what we accomplish, but the warmth, the weight, the presence of how we exist with others. Maya Angelou, poet of empathy, teacher of the soul, reminded us of this sacred truth. I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. It's one of the most shared quotes in the world. And still, we often miss the invitation hidden inside. We chase impact through action. We measure value through achievements. We fight for influence through performance. But Maya knew, true impact is emotional. It lives in energy, in presence, in how your spirit enters a room and how it stays when you leave. We remember people by the way they sat with us in silence, not how eloquent their words were. By how they made us laugh during chaos, not how perfect their timing was. By how they looked at us when we felt unseen, not how powerful they were in a crowd. Legacy isn't carved in stone, it's carried in memory. You can forget someone's job title, their status, their resume, but you'll remember if they made you feel safe, if they made you feel heard, if they made you feel like you mattered even for a moment. And in this age of virtual closeness and emotional distance, Maya's words feel more urgent than ever. We need connection, not just followers, not just views, not just likes. We need human moments, real ones, eye contact, soft words, listening without interrupting, checking in without an agenda, showing up not with answers, but with presence. You don't need to be extraordinary to make someone feel seen. You don't need a degree in psychology to offer empathy. You don't need a platform to make someone feel heard. You just need to be willing. Willing to feel. Willing to pause. Willing to carry someone's burden, even if just for a moment. Because the truth is, we are all walking around carrying stories no one sees. Hurts we've learned to hide. Battles we fight behind smiles. And sometimes, one kind human being, genuine interaction is all it takes to remind us that we are not alone in this world. That's legacy. That's what Maya lived. That's what she's calling us to live. And then, she gives us something even more tender. Another quote, lighter in tone but just as deep in meaning. Try to be a rainbow in someone else's cloud. What a beautiful, childlike, powerful truth. Because we all have clouds. We all have storms that gather silently. Days that feel heavy. Mornings we can't quite get out of bed. Nights that echo with questions we're too tired to answer. And in those moments, a small act of kindness becomes a miracle. A smile becomes shelter. A compliment becomes medicine. A soft word becomes a bridge back to hope. You don't need to fix someone's whole life. You don't need to take away the cloud. You just need to bring a little color to the gray. A little light to the dark. A little warmth to the cold. Maya isn't asking you to be perfect. She's asking you to be present, to be intentional, to be gentle, to be the reason someone believes in goodness again. Even if just for a moment, because the truth is, one moment of kindness can echo across a lifetime. You may forget what you said. They may forget what you did. But the feeling you leave behind that lingers. That builds. That becomes legacy. Not legacy in the history books. Legacy in the heart. You want to live a meaningful life? Start here. Make people feel safe. Make them feel seen. Make them feel like they matter. Be the rainbow. Be the warmth. Be the reason someone believes in softness again. Because we're not just building careers, we're building a trail of feelings. We're leaving behind emotional fingerprints. We're writing our legacy in the hearts we touch. Maya Angelou didn't leave behind just books. She left behind light in every person she met, in every line she wrote, in every soul she reminded of their worth. Asterisk, asterisk, and now, the invitation is ours. To make our lives about more than performance, to make our presence feel like peace. To choose connection over ego. To leave kindness wherever we go, because at the end of it all, they won't remember the details, but they will remember you. They will remember your warmth, your love, your presence. They will remember how you made them feel. Asterisk. Quotes on resilience and inner strength. You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated. There are moments in life when the ground beneath you shifts. Moments that come without warning, breaking your rhythm, bruising your spirit, leaving you breathless. Moments when everything you planned, hoped, built falls apart. And in those moments, the world offers two options: shrink or rise. Maya Angelou knew pain. Not the kind you read about in fiction, but the kind you survive in silence. Abuse, abandonment, racism, rejection. She had every reason to retreat, but she didn't. Instead, she gave the world her voice. A voice carved from pain, but grounded in purpose. A voice that said, you may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. You can't control the storm, but you can choose how you stand in the rain. You can't erase the past, but you can refuse to live stuck inside it. You can't stop life from wounding you, but you can choose whether to let it define you. There is power in that choice. Resilience isn't denial. It's not pretending everything is okay. It's not wearing a fake smile or posting filtered strength. Resilience is deeper. It is born in the quiet decision to keep going. To keep showing up for yourself. To believe that healing is possible even when hope feels out of reach. Maya wasn't preaching survival, she was modeling it. She took her trauma and turned it into testimony. She turned silence into poetry. She turned defeat into rhythm. She taught us that resilience is not the absence of suffering, it's the refusal to be defined by it. We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated. These aren't just words. They're an anthem, a rhythm, a battle cry for every soul that has felt broken but not finished. You will encounter defeats. You will face heartbreak, injustice, disappointment. You will fall, but you are not your fall. Defeat may visit, but it doesn't get to stay. You may bend, but you are not breakable. You may cry, but your tears do not drown your strength. There is something unshakable inside you, something holy, something that pain cannot destroy. And Maya Angelou's words, soft as they seem, are scaffolding for that strength. She reminds you, you have every right to feel your grief, but you also have every right to rise again. Resilience isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the whisper that says, I'll try again tomorrow. I'm not done yet. I still believe there's more for me. Sometimes resilience looks like rest. Like crying when you need to. Like letting go of what broke you. Like choosing joy even when sorrow feels safer. And sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is keep loving. In a world that keeps giving you reasons to close your heart. Maya's words don't deny the weight of life. They acknowledge it and then hand you back your wings. You may be bruised, but you are not broken. You may have scars, but you are not damaged. You may have fallen, but you are not finished. You are still here, still rising, still worthy. And that is resilience. Empowerment and final reflection. I'm a woman. Phenomenally, phenomenal woman. That's me. She said it plainly, with fire in her voice and softness in her breath, not boastfully, not to impress, but to declare, to remind of something that should have never been forgotten. Worth is not given, it is owned. Maya Angelou didn't wait for the world to affirm her beauty, her strength, or her brilliance. She stood inside it phenomenally, not despite her scars, but because of them. Not in perfection, but in truth. And in doing so, she gave permission to every woman who ever felt small, to every soul who ever shrank to make others comfortable, to every person who forgot that their presence is power. This is empowerment, not the kind that shouts, but the kind that knows. Empowerment that says, I may not fit your mold, but I'm not here to fit. I may not walk your path, but I walk in purpose. I may not speak your language, but my voice still matters. Maya Angelou didn't tell us to be phenomenal. She told us to remember that we already are. That our value doesn't begin when we achieve something. That our dignity isn't waiting in someone else's approval. That our becoming is not a race but a return. A return to truth. A return to self. A return to soul. This is where empowerment lives. Not in applause, but in alignment. Not in noise, but in knowing. Not in dominance, but in deep-rooted peace. Empowerment is saying, I am still worthy, even if I've been broken. I am still beautiful, even if I've been overlooked. I am still powerful, even if the world called me small. Maya Angelou was not just a writer. She was a mirror. She reflected back to us the parts we tried to hide and said, that too is beautiful? Your shadow, your doubt, your grief, your fire, your softness, your rage, all of it, sacred. She was not asking us to rise into something new. She was calling us to return to something ancient. To the truth we were born with, that we are enough. Right now, as we are. Even when healing, even when messy, even when uncertain, and so we end here, not at a finish line but at a beginning where you don't ask for permission, where you don't wait for validation, where you stop apologizing for your presence, where you stop dimming your light to comfort someone else's eyes. Let Maya's words live in you. Let them walk with you into every room. Let them sit with you when you doubt yourself. Let them rise with you when the world tries to shrink you. Let them remind you, you are a phenomenal woman, a phenomenal man, a phenomenal soul. Not someday, not after you fix yourself, not when they finally see you, but now, phenomenally, powerfully, unapologetically. That's you. Asterisk, asterisk, and so we close, not with an ending, but with a beginning, because Maya Angelou didn't just leave behind quotes, she left behind keys. Keys to healing, keys to dignity, keys to rising when the world says stay down. Her words weren't meant to be memorized. They were meant to be embodied, lived, breathed, passed on from soul to soul. She reminded us that no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, and no matter what you've been through, you are still whole, still worthy, still becoming. Let her wisdom echo inside you when you doubt your strength. Let it hold you when the night feels long. Let it call you forward, back into your purpose, your power, your poetry. Because the truth is, you are not here to merely survive. You are here to soar. To rise in love, to walk in light, to speak in truth, to live as only you can. So go forward, phenomenally, gracefully, UNSHAKABLY. And when the world forgets how to feel, be the reminder. Just like Maya was. Asterisk, asterisk, if Maya's words touched something deep in you today, if they stirred your strength, softened your heart, or reminded you of who you truly are, don't keep that light to yourself. Like this video if her wisdom still matters in your life. Share it with someone who needs to remember their power. Subscribe for more soul-deep reflections. Because this is more than content, it's a movement. Let's keep her voice alive. Not just in quotes, but in how we live. In how we speak. In how we rise. This isn't the end, it's your invitation to be the message.